A little birdie told me that you are ready to buy your house this year, but you have no idea where to start or if you should start looking for a new construction property or a resale property. Well, that is what this video is all about. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, it is your favorite real estate agent, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Today we're going to be talking about all things new construction versus resale. And this particular video is going to be talking specifically on why you should purchase a resale property over new construction. Before I get into it, I want to preface this by saying that the decision to buy a new construction property versus a resale property is all about a lifestyle situation, right? What is your lifestyle looking like right now, and where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? The reason I ask this is because typically, after purchasing a home, it takes some time for the equity to build on that property. Will you be willing to stay in that area, in that home, for the next 3 to 5 years? Those are things you have to ask yourself, and a few other things as well. Looking at the neighborhood, looking at the school district, many other factors come into play when you are deciding to buy a house. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video talking about how to strategically buy a property, because one thing you need to understand is that before you buy a house, you have to be very strategic about your lifestyle and your goals. Do you want to buy your house as an investment, or do you want to live in it forever? That is up to you to decide. When I first got my license, my father, God rest his soul, was so funny to me and my brother, because when we were at the car dealership, he told the salesman, he said, "I want the oldest car you have on the lot." And I remember looking at my brother like, "Why, Dad? Like, there are other nice cars out here. Why does it have to be the oldest car in the lot?" And he was so determined. We ended up buying a 2006 Toyota Camry, and that car was with us for a long time, and it was a really good car. So I'm very grateful for my dad for even doing that. But why would you buy a resale? Why not just buy a brand new Toyota Camry? Well, my dad had it in his mind that older cars were built better. They were built stronger, they last longer, and honestly, I don't know what the mileage on the car was when we purchased the car, but I do know that that car really held up well. Even after it was beat up, it was still driving. It was on its last leg before my brother finally gave that car up. But I'm very grateful to buy a resale property. So it is not a surprise. It is not a surprise then, when I was shopping for my home, that I was determined to look for resale properties and not a new construction. And honestly, I had the same bias as my father. Newer construction properties are built too fast. They don't have the longevity. They have, more breakage issues than older properties. So it's so funny to see how my dad's mindset translated or transferred to me over the years. When I purchased my first home, there's no brainer. I'm not looking for a new construction property. I know my friends were like, "Why don't you look for a new construction property?" And I live in Atlanta, so some of the new construction properties were built in nicer areas as well. But I was so determined to buy my resale property, and I'm grateful that I did. I have no regrets for buying a resale property. However, if you've seen some of my previous videos, there are some things that I wish I had known about before purchasing my property. Let's get into it. Why should you buy a resale property over a new construction property? Hey, I know you are enjoying this video, but I wanted to stop you really quickly to share with you something so exciting that I feel that you would love to hear about. So in 2025, I just realized how much people are so not knowledgeable in the things they need to know about purchasing a home. I started my education series where I teach on home ownership, webinars and seminars. I wrote my first book, And I even created a tracker to keep track of your expenses to prepare you for home ownership. But I realized that that is not enough. So I decided to start my consultation firm. So if you are ready to buy a house in 2025, even if you are already shopping right now or you are working with an agent, I have my consulting services available to you. If you're questioning whether or not your loan is right for you, or you want to make sure that you don't overspend, you also want to make sure that you don't end up buying a house that you cannot actually afford, and you don't end up being house poor, make sure you check out the link in the description, and you can schedule your first 15-minute consultation with me directly for free, and then we can decide whether or not you want to move forward with working with me. Let's get back to the video. One major and most obvious is the price point of the property. Most new construction properties cost more than its neighboring counterparts. And so when you're looking to buy a new construction property, expect to spend more on that property than with a resale property. And of course, that's the price you have to pay for being the one to break the house in. You are the first one to live in that house. You're the first one to make changes to the house. And most of the time when you're buying a new construction property, the builder is willing to accommodate some of the buyer's desires on the house, like granite finishes, cabinetry, things of that nature. Those are things that the buyer can give their opinion about, so they feel like they have a little bit of control over the build of their home, which you won't really get with a resale property. You get what you get with a resale property. And since we are on the subject of the price point of new construction homes versus resale properties, let's talk about equity. Remember, I talked about the fact that your lifestyle can help you determine whether or not to buy a resale versus a new construction property. If a property costs way more than the neighboring properties in the neighborhood, just know that when you buy that property and you decide to sell it, it is now considered a resale. It's not going to be considered a new construction. Technically, it's still a newer construction property, but it's now considered a resale because you lived in it before you sold it. So the equity on the house is going to take a lot longer to build on a new construction property versus a resale property. The beauty about a resale property is that when you find the house, you do the inspection, and it's a perfect fit for you, you can make as much changes or as little as you want that can build equity on the property to bring the price of the house up. Especially if you are buying a new construction property in an already established neighborhood, it will absolutely be more difficult to sell it in a shorter period of time if you do decide to sell it, because the equity on that house definitely would not have been built yet. So next on the list is location. Location is really important when you're deciding on a property. The location determines the price of the house. The location determines your experience living in that property, especially if it's located so far from all the necessities of life, hospitals, fire stations, school districts, all of those things. How location affects your house and you're living in that house is very important. A lot of new construction properties are built in neighborhoods or areas that are up and coming. So if you want to know what the neighbor is going to look like, what the neighbors are like, if you want to get information about what is going on in that area, you will have very limited information to go off of, because this new construction property is built in an up and coming area. Whereas resale properties are built in areas that may or may not be up and coming, but there are already neighbors there. You can talk to people, you can ask people their opinions. You can see how the neighbors are. You can see what's going on in terms of crime rate. You can see what's going on with the school district. Those are things that you have data to make a better decision because it's already been established. Another one on the list, I don't really have a word for it, but it's more so that you have confidence in knowing that this property has withstood all the tests of time, the tests of nature, for 20, 30, 40, whatever amount of years, and it's still standing. Why is this important? The thing is that when you buy a resale properties and you do inspection on this property, you can see the wear and tear, you can see the things that need to be fixed. And this is if you do your thorough inspection on this property. You can see what is going on with the property and what is not going on with the property. And you can make a better sound decision on that. If the house has been sitting for so long, what are the odds that anything would go wrong after you buy it? Now, I'm not saying that it is impossible that after purchasing the home, then anything will happen to the house, but I'm saying that it has stood the test of time. Okay, this house has stood the test of time. With a new construction property, it is brand new. There are so many horror stories, and I have talked about some of them on this page before, where people buy new construction properties hoping that everything is great and there are no issues whatsoever, and then find out that the builders really didn't put in as much effort into the house as they should, especially for the price of the investment that they made on this property. So when you have a new construction, yes, they may have some warranties on that new construction. There are some horror stories about how those warranties were useless when they actually needed them, or sometimes the issues start to happen after the warranty has worn out. So these are things that you should keep in mind, and don't say to yourself that, oh, it's a new construction property, automatically everything is great, everything is fine because everything is brand new. Remember that these new construction properties are built so quickly. You don't know how much effort they put in and the materials that they put into these properties. It's kind of like the parable the parable of the house built on the rock and the house built on sand, right? If the wind blows, which house is going to stand longer? We already know that the older construction properties has already stood the test of time, the test of nature. Can this new construction property stand the test of time? Especially with how quickly it was built. A lot of the materials that are used for these properties are cheap. And I'm not saying all new construction properties are like that. However, if you guys wanted me to make another video talking about new construction properties and the negative side of new construction properties, let me know and I'll make that video for you. However, there are some good things about new construction properties, and I'm going to talk about that in the next video. So don't be discouraged with this video saying I don't want to buy new construction property anymore, but I just wanted you to keep in mind all the good things about resale properties that you may not have heard before. And so that brings me to the last thing on the list, which is that everything may be brand new, but that doesn't mean everything is great. It doesn't mean everything was installed well. It doesn't mean that everything will work right. It doesn't mean that you're not going to face any issues in the future. There are so many horror stories of people that purchase a new construction property and they end up finding mold in the air, in the house, to the point where it's uninhabitable, right? They end up finding the HVAC not properly installed or the roof not properly installed. They're getting leaks in the house and the windows are not installed properly. So there's a lot of condensation in the house, which can also lead to mold. You know, there are so many stories you can find on Reddit, you can find on YouTube, you can find on TikTok of new construction property horror stories. So don't say to yourself that because it's brand new, I don't need an agent, I don't need an inspector, everything is great, because new construction properties aren't always as great as it seems. So make sure you understand that resale properties, if it doesn't have mold all this time, if it doesn't have any foundation issues all this time, if it doesn't have any issues with the roof, then the house most likely can withstand the test of time. And if you, let's say it's an older house, let's say it's a 50-year-old house and the roof is 20 years old, you can request that the seller replace the roof. You can request that the seller replace the hot water heater. You can request these things before you purchase the home, or you can just have them replaced, right? Ask the seller to give you concessions for it. I really hope this video helped you. I hope that this video clarified some things for you. And so if you're asking yourself, should I buy a new construction property or should I buy a resale property? I would suggest that you stay tuned for next week. I will be coming out with another video talking about why you should buy a new construction property over a resale property. Thank you so much for watching and even making it this far. If you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like this video and make sure you share it with anyone that is ready to buy their house in 2025. Thanks so much for watching. I love you, and remember, God loves you even more. Bye.